Hello, welcome to my cake kitchen. I am Gladys, and over here I make simple, informative tutorials to help you navigate baking and decorating easily. Ignore the sound that you're hearing, that's the sound of my kettle. We're back again, and today I am simply going to be handing you beginner-friendly tips on how you can achieve success with a 3D hyper-realistic shoe cake like this cake sitting in front of me. Good thing is that we completed this on a live tutorial, and bear with me. Right, okay, my people are all here. Sorry, I missed you. Great to have you back. Okay, so I didn't see the chat for a minute, but yeah, Tabitha, Lollipop, all of you, good morning, good afternoon, good evening, good day. Great to have you back, and such a pleasure always. Look, it's my life's desire to be here to talk cakes, to enjoy your company, and to give you value through the skill of cake making. You will never know how exciting that makes me feel. But that aside, today we are not doing any of this. If you've been here all week, you will know all week has been really intense. And the intensity of this week is because we have struggled through this cake in hard times to get to where we are. So today's cake is going to fit today. I said today's cake. Today's tutorial. Bear with me. My lighting is off. My lighting is a bit wonky, right? Bear with me. What is that? Okay. I'm just trying to get my lights adjusted. Today's tutorial is focusing on handing you beginner-friendly tips so that you are clear. And then I'll be catching up on some of the conversations I have missed whilst I've been so busy doing this. And also, we will be talking all things cake. If you're meeting me for the first time, hello there. And if you're catching this on replay, great to have you here. Look, take your time, peruse around the channel. We are obsessed with cake. We are, okay? Have I told you lately that I love cake? We are obsessed with cake. On the channel, in long form, you have simple step-by-step tutorials. In the live sessions, you see intense, unfiltered, raw moments of the decorating process. And in shorts version, you get to see some of the behind the scenes of what cake making is about. And I'm open to sharing some of the cake making stories with you. You know, most of my business has been focused on actually just delivering you the skill, but there's a lot that happens behind the business of cakes, like the story behind a cake, perhaps what I was feeling when I was making the cake, the struggles that I never was able to speak about at the time. I am committed to bringing you some of those positive but behind the scenes stuff, and I can do that in shorts form just so that you can move along and keep definitely scrolling. So if you're just joining me, thank you for your time, your investment. Most of the time over here, whilst we're talking cake, we also love tea. Okay, we have quirks over here. And some of our quirks here is, if you're going to stick with us for a little longer, you'll find out that we're just not a cake making channel. We make cakes, okay? But we're also a community. So we talk about real life, okay? People share their stories, and then we hold space for them, and we look after each other. Tabitha and Lollipop will look after you, okay? Including everybody else. Like, you guys are friends in the chats, and you keep yourselves like entertained whilst I labor away with this laborious task over here. So I encourage you to continue to keep that spirit up, okay? And what is wrong today? Look, my light is not on over here. Bear with. I'm looking and thinking something is off. Okay. Right. I'm back, okay? My lighting wasn't great. Oh, okay. So, if you're meeting me for the first time, pleasure to have you. Let me make myself a cup of tea, take a seat, and then we can talk about the tips you need to get a cake like this. Okay, let's get ourselves a hot drink. Hot. Okay, Baba. And by the way, part of our quirks here is that we love tea mugs. Mugs that I break sometimes, unfortunately. And I have myself a new mug. Not that you care, but because we talk mugs here, because I need my mugs for my tea and I break them a lot. My sister went on holiday and brought me a lovely mug. Okay, I love it. I'm going to be making a cup of tea. I want to tell her, when I go back, I'll tell her, I'm like, sis, next time you go on holiday, bring me the mug that looks like a bowl so I can have tea and soup in my big mug. But I'm very sentimental, so that's a lovely mug. Now, let's move on to the tips that you need. Tabitha, it's not metal. If it was metal, I don't think she would get through the airport security. Okay, so I am sure my sister would love to get me a metal cup if she knew that I broke them easily. Okay, let's see. In my small kitchen. Oh gosh. Can you see the struggle? Even to sit down, it's hard. Okay, can you see me? Am I comfortable? Can you see me? Okay, you can see me, right? Because this session is going to be relaxed, because I'm just going to be talking to you about tips that will help you achieve some great results. Because whilst most of you have conceded that you might not be making a shoe cake, I think it's still important you get to know what it takes to make a shoe cake, just in case you want to try it on your own. So if you're catching me on replay, thank you for stopping by. And if you've already been here in the 6 parts, so that's been 6 days. It's taken us a whole week to get to here. It's taken us a whole week, people. And here we are. Okay. And in the 6 days of getting through to this, look at me. In the 6 days of getting through the action of making this shoe cake, we have failed, because the way I started, I didn't like it, and I came back and we took the cake apart, and then we went back to redecorating the cake, and it's taken a little bit of a challenging road before we got here. So this hasn't been one of my easiest cakes to make. This hasn't been one of my easiest cakes to make, but I am pleased we're here, hence why I am handing you the tip. Because it's going to be a very relaxed, chatty session, I'm going to be dipping in the chat so that I can see your contributions in the chat as well. Lollipop is a little bit stressed because she has a birthday. Lollipop, is that your birthday again? Sorry, my brain is just gone fuzzy. Is that your birthday bakes, or you're baking for the family? I know you are undertaking a lot of bake, but Lollipop is a little bit... Oh my God, Lollipop is having a very stressy morning. I am so sorry, darling. How can we help? You've got a crack in the cake, the butter-based cream cheese crack. Oh my God. Okay, yeah, it's for the baby, right? Oh, is that why you undertook the bake? Thank you, though, Lollipop. Lollipop shared some recipes with me. Look, we have what? The hoopie pies and stuff. Thank you for tagging me. I've seen that. Look, I am always up for a recipe. Even though I cannot always make time to complete them in time, I love myself a good, reliable recipe, especially ones that has been tried and tested. So you recommending it also makes for trust, because then I know you've tried it. So if the outcomes are good for you, Fantastic. I see Jackie in the chat. Jackie, good morning, darling. How are you? It's Memorial Day today for my US based audience. Is it? No, it's not. It's not. It's Tuesday. How was Memorial Day, people? Let's forget. I don't know when Memorial Day is. Okay. But Jackie, great to have you back. Good morning. How are you? It's Tuesday. Yeah, I think I've got my days mixed up, people. I've got my days mixed up. Yesterday was a bank holiday here in the UK. See? Aunt Jackie to the rescue. Take a warm knife to it. If you're trying to fix a crack, right? It is generally because of a crack in a cake is caused by generally a sort of difference in temperature, and also it's caused by a difference in temperature between the preserving temperature and where you bring the cake out to. That could be reason, but the other reason is also pressure building in the cake. So if you baked and set the cake up too quickly, the cake may not have had time to set. And so when you put it in the fridge and moisture builds, it collects moisture and retains moisture, and pressure builds, it eventually breaks through. So if any of these reasons, which is you baked too soon and stacked too soon, because sometimes you need a full day to 48 hours to let the cake set completely before you stack it, right? And then from there you put it in the fridge. And also by the time you put the cake, you stack the cake, if there is a disparity between the buttercream, which in this case is cream cheese, and your preserving temperature, that can also add to the pressure buildup, and then it can cause cracks. So if you are going to eat the cake within the next couple of hours, then you can take a warm knife to it, cut through the cracks, let the cake sit at a sort of not a cooler temperature, but slightly warmer than cool, because cool means the cake still gets tense. But you want to try and let the cake come to room temperature for the pressure to release and the cake to reset. That is if you're not going to be using the cake or needing it in the next couple of hours. But if you are going to need it, if you're going to eat it in the next couple of hours, the short way to fix this is to put a warm knife to the crack, cut through it, fill it back up, let it chill, but make sure that the cake is consumed within the shortest couple of hours ahead of you. But if you're going to still wait for the next 24 hours before you eat the cake, leave it at room temperature, not sitting on a countertop, not for cream cheese though, butter-based cream cheese, but raise the temperature of your fridge. That is if it's a home fridge. Be careful though, especially if you don't have a designated space for that. Just leave it to the side a little bit, let the gases come up, the pressure release, and the cake sets, and then you will recover again and leave it back in the fridge. That is the tip to fixing cracks in your cake. I have discussed. Did you say no? You baked. Okay, so Lollipop say, oh, you will serve it. If you're serving it within 7 or 8 p.m., just take a warm knife to it. Like Jackie said, pick a kitchen knife, okay? Dip it in warm water. Make sure the knife has a sharp blade though, because you don't want to be sawing through the cake. So make sure you have a sharp blade to your knife. Dip it in boiling water, as in the sort of water you'll be using for a cup of tea. Cut through the cracks, and then fill it back up, put it back in the fridge. It will set fine, because you're going to be cutting through it this evening. But if it was something you were going to eat tomorrow, if you did that, it will crack again, because the more you put it back in the fridge and the pressure is contained in the cake, there will be another exit point. It will create another, so it will cause more cracks for you if you like. But if you need it just for 8 p.m., it's about 3 p.m. So just leave it till about 6 if you like. It's too close though. Leave it till about 4 p.m. Get a a sharp knife, cut through the crack, and then seal it back up, put it in the fridge, and it should be fine. Okay, that is the best way to that's the best way to solve it. Tapita, were you asking me a question about, did I say gas? What I meant was pressure and moisture. Because when you bake, right? When you bake a cake, because of, okay, I am no scientist. I understand what happens. I just struggle to explain. But I think if you look on the internet, I'm sure you will find some information to support that. But there are gases released in the baking process. So the whole idea of baking that is set in science has something to do with carbon dioxide gas and a whole thing about gases that is very scientific. So bear that in mind. So when you bake a cake, you want to leave the cake to settle. Okay, if you bake and stack the same day, you are setting yourself up for a fall. Even though it's doable, you have to have some sort of experience and knowledge to be able to achieve better results by doing that. I really do not recommend baking and stacking the same day, because you are setting yourself up for a fall. Because when I think I've discussed the subject of cracks in cakes on this channel before in long form content. So do check that out. Cracks may be caused by so many different reasons, starting from the board on which the cake is displayed, to unstable buttercream, to the handling of the cakes. But primarily, when you see a gushing crack in the cake, which tends to happen a lot. It's happened to me a lot of times. And actually, in one of my most recent shorts video, the 3-tier cake that I built for a 60th birthday with the name Mary in front, it was for a customer. And when I was stacking the cake, I literally had a gush in the middle of the cake coming out. The cake literally split. There was different reasons for that. So whilst baking and stacking the same day may contribute to cracks or other related problems in your cake, it is not solely the reason for why cracks form. You have to identify how cracks form so that you can be able to solve the problem. Having said that, if you primarily have a cake that has a crack, it naturally just means that there's pressure buildup. Because when you stack the cake, besides the cake containing gases from the baking session and also adding buttercream, you have a variation in temperature, which is from where you're working temperature to the preserving temperature. There are issues happening over there that may not seem visible to you. So when you put the cake in the fridge and the cake is holding the moisture to chill in the fridge, what happens is that pressure builds in the cake. And when pressure builds in the cake, it has to release somewhere, right? And by so doing, between pressure and moisture movement, because moisture movement, where does the moisture come from? From the moisture that is built in the cake itself and also the buttercream. So when a cake sets solid, you can contain that. But the differences in temperature that is moving the cake around and coming all contributes to all these elements. Eventually, you will have moisture movement and pressure build up in the cake. And when that happens, eventually it has to come out of somewhere. So you'll find that some cake makers will kind of poke a hole. I would poke a hole in the middle of a cake. And it might seem like there's no reason for it. The reason is that I'm creating an exit point for the pressure and moisture buildup. That will reduce the possibility of a crack. But that is one aspect of solving the crack problem. Your preserving temperature, which is the temperature within which you store your cake, may also cause problems. For instance, if you're using ganache and you put the ganache, say a ganache ratio of 4:1, which is a solid set ganache. When you put ganache in the fridge and it's too chill, it will suck the moisture out of the ganache, rendering the surface dry. That will cause a crack. But that crack is more superficial. So there's kind of a technicality to explaining cracks in cakes. But the generic idea is that Lollipop has admitted that she baked and stacked the same day, which might be reason. Plus, cream cheese is not in itself a very stable buttercream. So that might be the causing problem. And yeah. the recommended idea is for her to just cut through the crack and just fill it back with buttercream. It should be fine because the cake doesn't need to kind of stay any longer than need, and it will be ate sometime this evening. So I hope that helps. That said, our main goal today is to talk about a few tips to get better results. Okay, so Carpenter, you're baking too. How is the baking coming along, lovely? That said, we're talking about tips to help you get great results with this choux cake. Now, I have said, admittedly, that a choux cake like this is not beginner friendly at all. But of course, even a professional with advanced skill has to start somewhere. Surprisingly or unsurprisingly, this is my very first trainer choux cake. I remember someone contacted me with a photo of a yellow Nike style trainers, and I knew I could make it. But when I looked at the time for making that cake, at that time, I think I quoted 185 pounds. And suddenly, surprisingly, the serving was for, I think he said there were going to be about 10 to 12 people. And I quoted 185 pounds. And like some people who contact cake makers and don't know the price of cake, they ghosted me. That is actually a regular occurrence in my cake business. So that is fine. I'm not mad about it. But at the time, I underestimated. I had no concept. I knew that I would be able to make the choux. And I have taken on commissioned cake orders that I've never tried before until the order came through. And I've managed to push myself and done it. I'll tell you that when you do take those orders, that is the very first time you find out in the process how much time and effort it takes. And I can tell you now that it normally takes more time and effort than you would have charged for. But you win some and you lose some. So a tip here is that you have some sort of understanding, but you never know. Having said that, when they ghosted me, I didn't take it personal. Now that I have completed a full choux cake, I am sure if somebody contacted me and wanted a choux cake like this, it will cost more than the first 185 pounds that I quoted for, because the amount of time and effort and skill that goes into a cake like this is actually underrated. Because I spent 6 days, an average of at least an hour and a half every day on here for the last 6 days. So take away the fact that half of that time has been spent talking, okay? Half of that time is spent talking and engaging with you. So let's say on an average, and if you go back to the videos, you'll see it's about an hour and 15, and sometimes running up to nearly 2 hours. So on an average, it works out about an hour and a quarter daily, right? And if we took half of that to be the chats, it means for every day in the 6 days, I have been here for at least 45 minutes focusing on the cake. And that doesn't also include the prep time. Actually, if I took away the chatting time, I still have to invest back in the prep time. And because if I was making this cake for a client, I'll still have to prep, organize, and then come back and get it all done. So even if I stacked my hours by an hour a day for the last 6 days, that is 6 hours of work. So let's round it to a relatively reasonable time, including prep work, of 8 solid hours per choux cake, right? 8 hours. And that is just for the skill of decorating. Mind you, I didn't bake this cake. I carved it from it's a recycled cake from a handbag cake. So if I were to bake the cake, leave it to set and everything, we are going to probably end up with at least 10 to 12 hours work. And when I was doing my research, I think I saw a cake by one popular YouTuber who makes some really fancy and technical cakes. And they said they made a Nike choux cake similar to this. There's similarity here. And they baked the cake, hand carved it. And they said it took a whole day to get it done. So give or take 10 to 12 hours from baking to completion is fair. That said, if I was paying myself, because for the amount of skill and effort that goes into a cake like this, you're not going to assign minimum wage to yourself. So let's say if you were assigning at least because minimum wage is a little over £12 at this point in time, right? So if I was charging based on my skill and expertise alone, this would probably be charged at least a minimum of £25 per hour. But let's be fair, and let me bring it to a relatively reasonable price. The time invested here, we're talking about minimum of 10 to 12 hours. And if I was charging myself at least £20 per hour for that, those 10 hours of work will be about £200. Okay, this hasn't included incidentals and business costs and everything. So a reasonable price for a cake like this, from a minimum of, let's say, £250 fairly, to anything between 250 and 320 pounds. Now, how much will this cake serve? I think relatively this can serve up to 15, but you're not paying for the servings over here. You are actually just paying for the skill and expertise and the artistry that is sitting in front of you. To have a cake made specifically the way you desire with your specific preferences is custom. Okay, I mean, when you go and buy an MS bag for what? Or is it how much else that costs? It is because MS and other luxury brands have done a good job of marketing themselves as prestigious. So you want the brand association and the social sort of a currency to say, it becomes a social status to say, oh, I own an MS. But essentially what MS is telling you is that besides the status they are giving you by associating with them, they are saying, we make a bag specifically for you that suits your need. It is classy, it is stylish, and all of that stuff. So if you begin to see a custom cake from the viewpoint of the fact that I am not just a regular cake maker over here, and I'm not defending my skill. I'm just bringing you a perspective to say, I'm not just a regular cake maker, but I actually sit down and talk to you about your specific preferences related to this dessert you want. And then I take those preferences and then I put them into an art form for you. Why shouldn't I charge just as much as my skill is worth? So that is what one has to see in terms of custom cake pricing. But that on the offside, when it comes to the skill and the style of it, is this cake beginner friendly? It's no. And with over 10 years experience of cake making, my very first attempt, you would go back and see the raw challenges that I faced the first time I covered it. I mean, this looks completely different and leaps and bounds ahead of what we ended up with, because when I covered it first, it didn't look right. The shoe looked wonky and I didn't like it. Now, there was a part of me, here's a confession for you. There was a part of me that actually wanted to, on the off chance, kind of get it all sorted on the back end and then come back and talk to you. And I thought that is not a reflection of the value system that I propose over here, because the value system I propose here is to be as reasonably open and honest with what is fair in relation to the skill that I have. And especially on the platform and in our world today where we all relish perfection, it is great to have, can I go and make this cake on the back end and present a good, perfectly polished cake? Of course I could have done that. But the goal here wasn't even about me, because I would always have an opportunity to remake a cake. As a cake business owner and a cake artist, I will always, if I woke up one day and thought, I want to just cheer myself up by indulging myself in my hobby without a camera, I would still be able to remake this cake. But what does it look like for you if you are undertaking a cake that you do not know you could fail at? And how do you even handle your failures? So I thought I'll bring it back here. So the entire process is raw, it is unfiltered, and you can get to see the challenging moments where I failed face down. We stripped the cake back. But you know what? That in itself presented some great lessons for us, because in the stripping of the cake and the discussion of the challenging process, we had a therapy session about our own lives and some difficulties and trusting God. So I think the entire process of making the cake has been amazing for me. And for that, I am so grateful to have had you and your company and your time being here. You know, that said, let's jump into the tips that you may need to get a cake like this. Now, I did say I carved this cake from a handbag cake. So this is sort of a recycled cake that has been remade. Now, should you go recycling your cakes? No, because recycling one cake to another takes a certain level of skill. So tip number one, if you're trying to make a cake like this, bake from scratch. And I mean bake from scratch as in bake your own cake. Don't go and recycle a cake. But talking about recycling, you can try, or you can do a practice session by using recycled cake. So if you're a beginner and you think, oh, I have got a cake from a family member, or I want to make a cake for my family member or a loved one, think in advance. That's tip number two. I will elaborate on tip number two, but tip number two kind of lends to tip number one. Think in advance. So if you think in advance, this is not the sort of cake that you kind of conjure on a whim, where you wake up and you feel like, I'm excited to try something new, so I'm just going to go ahead and make a cake. No, a cake like this takes time to think about. So think in advance. But more importantly, either bake your own cake so that you can get the proportions right, or use recycled or scrap cake as oh, Jacob, thank you. Jacob made a donation to the channel for $4.99. Jacob says, let's give people, all of you, all 9 of you, excluding Jacob, so all 8 of you in the chat, let's give Jacob a thumbs up or a clap for Jacob over there. Jacob Lindsay has just made a donation. Is it a super chat? What is it? Is it a super chat or what it's called? I have no idea what that is. He says, Jacob says, God bless you, and if you have any spare cake at all, even though I am on a diet, I'd love to have some. Jacob, it depends on where you are. At the moment, if you're in the US, unfortunately, I can't give you any spare cake. If you're within the UK region, I might consider it. For the time being, I do not have any spare cake because the cake I have here is inedible. It's recycled cake. But of course, I'm a cake maker. We have spoken a lot about what we intend to do in the future, about what we do here. And my hope is that as we expand and we grow, because at the moment we are what you would deem a micro channel, but we call that a micro channel because we are humans and we perceive things in our own point of view. But this is what I know for sure, that even the Bible says, despise not the day of small beginnings. Okay, so whilst we're still small here, we have ambitions to grow and we move in faith, and most of you who are here support that value system and hope that we will grow. So for that reason, when we do, the hope is that we can bake and send them off in whatever capacity. So Jacob, I say thank you so much for your donation. I cannot promise you a cake right now. I don't even have any spare at the moment. What I have is scrap cake. Most of the cakes I'm utilizing are all scrap cakes. I don't have any freshly baked at the moment. But you know what? I don't know. I have plans in my head that I get scared to tell the internet, because the internet is not a safe space. First of all, the internet is not a safe space at all. But who knows? We might have a big sale to help grow the channel. Who knows? People, let's just get on it. But Jacob, stick with us. Don't go. Subscribe to the channel. We'll put your name somewhere special. And then when we get to it, we will talk about your cake someday. Okay? Thank you so much, though. Thank you. You know what? I look forward to the day that I will put a cake and be like, this cake is going to Fapetha, this cake is going to Jackie. The thing is that the cake itself won't be that hard to get to you because we don't necessarily need a whole cake to travel. We can have cake jars, okay? We can have brownies, we can have bake boxes. There are a ton of options ahead. The problem is, postage, and also managing the logistics of that. Whilst I can wake up one day and just bake and send it off, I think it has to be a little more organized. So never you mind, we are in May, right? We are in May. Let's get to June, because my goal, I haven't hidden the intention that my goal is for us to hit 10K before the summer. Perhaps, you know, by July. So if we can get that sorted, I think we'll have a whole celebration. And then what we can do is find a way to make this happen, because I really do want to send you some cakes, all of you. And it's not limited to a person, or all of you who are supporting us over here. If we say we organized a big sale, at the moment it requires planning, and the logistics of it is where you order, and the website is not optimized for direct purchase like that. It's optimized for custom, so you can drop me an email, but I think I set it up in such a way to avoid people paying directly into an account via the website, because then that when I started, that created order issues, because I used to have a point of service order system online where you could actually purchase your cake, and I find that people went, and even though there is additional information advising customers that your order should only be put in when you have at least a 4 days turnaround, I had people making orders for an hour collection. Okay, so the audacity of some people. So it ended up creating a less than great experience for customer order processors, and I took the order the point of service option out. So at the moment you can order and make a payment, but I have to go and reset that entire thing up. And if one was to make an order, so say if we were going to have a big sale for, say, brownies, it would be a brownie drop for, say, planned for a week, 2 weeks in advance or something. This is just me telling you what randomly sitting in my head. And then we'll come and we'll be like, okay, we have an order for brownies going out for 2 weeks time. So you make your order, you place the order, but you know you're not going to receive it before. You're not going to receive it yet for 2 weeks. And then when the 2 weeks come, we can bake it as one. Because otherwise, if I were to just bake it for just one person making a one order, it was going to be more expensive and unmanageable for me. I hope that makes sense. But as we grow and move on, you will see, look, we are here to stay. I'm here to stay. Okay, I'm not going anywhere. Okay, as far as the business and artistry of cakes are concerned, you will continuously get value from me, however that looks like, you know. So stay tight with me and we will get to where we are going. Okay, there is nothing more heartwarming and heartfelt like a bunch of strangers. You're not strangers in this house now, but there's nothing more heartwarming than making some good friends over the internet who will really, really want to see you win. I am so blessed for that. Thank you. That said, let's come back to the tips that you need to get these. Jacob, never mind you. Look, Tabitha is in the US. Jackie is in the US. Tabitha is in Oregon, okay? Oregon. And Jackie is somewhere deep south. And I still hope to send you guys some cakes. So don't give up yet. Your location doesn't stop Grace from finding you. And neither should it stop cake from getting to your door. As long as there is no, what do they call it? Those bandits who steal from your door. I know. Tabitha, you know what? Just prayer every day, because some days I think on the internet it is, yeah, if I woke up and I didn't have to come back here, I don't know what I'll do with myself. I'm sure I'd find something to do, but as you can see, I have settled. I was scared for a long time. Okay, for a long time I hid behind the voiceover and my hands doing the job. Have you seen my long form content? I was scared shitless for a long time to come here and talk to you, okay? Because the internet doesn't have any chill, okay? And I tend to say a lot. I tend to say a lot. Do you realize I can talk for England? Okay, if there was an Olympic sport for talking, it would be me. That's better than break dancing. Okay, I will do a better job talking than break dancing. Okay, so for a long time, I was so scared showing up here because I was like, first of all, what have I got to say? And secondly, there is only so much time you can pretend to filter yourself, especially if you like to talk. Okay? What does Proverbs say? Jackie, I need a Proverbs. Where's my sister at? Is she watching? Sis, if you're over there, tell us what Proverbs says about someone who talks too much. Jacob said, porch bandits. Thank you. Right? So, for a long time, I was very scared to do this, right? But, you know, success is at the other side of your fear. Because I still remember what it felt like the day I made the decision to show up here. I was scared. Could you see I was scared? You probably couldn't. But the confidence I have now, and obviously hoping to grow more and more and be more efficient in communicating, being able to hold your attention whilst giving you value, and trying to still stop my endless whinges and tangents. Remember, this session was supposed to be about tips for how to get great results. Have we done that yet? No. Okay. Okay, but here we are. Okay, so the feeling is mutual. For those of you who are scared, what would we do if Gladys wasn't here? I don't know what I would do if I wasn't here, but you know what? If we wake up with health, we are wealthy. Okay, so let's just continue to pray for grace, for good health and well-being, and see where the Lord will lead us. Because ultimately, it is the Lord who decides day to day where we are, okay? And if we're alive, let's hope for the best. And as long as I live and still have this cake here in this season, as the Lord wills, I am just happy to come back and serve you every day. Okay, people? That's it. That said, let's move back to the subject of the tips. So firstly, don't use scrap cake. If you were to use scrap cake, use it for practice session. Use it for practice session, but bake your own cake so that you can understand the proportions that are needed to be executed for you to be able to carve it. So that's tip number 1. Tip number 2, plan. Plan. Can we make a sing song about planning? Yes, plan in advance. Plan, have some insight about how you want to execute the cake. And part of planning also means choosing the design. And that's tip number 3. Choose a design. But when you choose the design, people, here's a good tip. If you remember, when I started this design, I did say I wanted to make a generic shoe cake. Of course, I went back and I looked in the chat and some of you thought I was making a Jordans. And yes, maybe if you pick a specific brand of Jordan, you compare it, you're like, oh, that's a Jordan shoe cake. It might just as well be. The reason why I didn't bother myself trying to model it specifically by the brand is that the brand has specific detail that might be difficult to achieve on the first time. So the tip number 3 here is that pick a design, but go for a generalized branded shoe. A generalized one means that I have said here time and again, pick something that will leave room for your mistakes. So much so that when you even make a mistake, it can be interpreted as part of the artwork. So for instance, I have no detail here, but when I look closely or when I Google Adidas or Nike or Jordans, there are similar trainers that look so close. Okay, so can I use those as representatives? Yes, I can. And the only difference is that I haven't put a logo to kind of define the exact kind of brand I am settling for. So settling for a generic design or a generalized option will work in your favor than actually being overly ambitious to go for, say, a Jordans or a Nike. But of course, as a beginner, if you will yourself to be able to execute a Nike branded shoe with the exact detail, I am not going to discourage you. Go ahead. But like I'm saying, for a beginner, I am just trying to hand you tips that will help you get great results. So first of all, you bake your own cake. Secondly, plan. I guess planning comes before baking. And then thirdly, pick a generic shoe option that you can carve. Also, one thing to add here, if you bake your own cake and you want to carve it, the option, stay away from lightly textured sponge cakes. What did I say? Stay away from lightly textured sponge cakes. Now, there's a reason for that, because there are different types of cakes, by the way. And even under sponge cakes, there are different types of sponge cakes. You're looking at your Genoa, and there's Genoa, there's the angel food cake, and then there is the sort of butter cake and all of that. But I'm talking about a lightly textured sort of angel food cake or a Genoa sponge. Stay away from that. And the simple reason here is because they are too tender and will not maintain structure. They won't allow room for you to carve the details right, and they are prone to collapsing. You need a steady cake. So generally the recommendation is to go for a mud cake or a solid butter style cake that sets hard. Does that mean you compromise on taste and texture and mouthfeel? Not necessarily, because if you're dealing with a custom cake maker, chances are their recipes are optimized to solve such problems. Because if you're a custom cake maker, you're used to building tiered cakes or hyper-realistic cakes in some form. So for me, for instance, my sponge cake may look like your regular sponge cake, but the details and the recipe method and ingredient selection is to inform a texture that will not collapse, but also won't compromise on the crumb quality. So your cake is still like a good tasting cake, but you're not going to have a dense cake that overfills your mouth and it's hard and it's chewy. Okay, so that is something to think about when you are choosing your cake options. Settle for a cake that will support the structure and avoid lightly textured sponge cakes. Next, one thing. Most of my realistic cakes I made here, I didn't use any template. I printed a photo, I had imaginations of what I would do, and then I came and I got on with it. Not this cake. You definitely need templates. And here's a confession for you. I get scared about templates because numbers confuse me. I don't know why. I get super anxious if I have to measure and cut. Like, I don't know. I just get super anxious. So I thought when I started this cake, if you've been here, for as long as this tutorial started, here is here is the print of the shoe. This is actually a generic photo of a blueprint of a shoe, a Nike trainer that I picked up online. I Googled, I'll talk you through the process. I Googled a sneaker cake blueprint, and then it gave me this template, right? And, well, it gave me the photo, and then it gave me a photo of a sole. These are photos you will find online. And I don't even know how to scale an image, you know, people. I don't know how to scale it. So what I did was I just screenshot the image, and then I took it as it is, and then I printed it through my edible printer. Of course, the paper here is cardstock, so as you can tell, it is it's not edible, this paper, but I needed the picture, and the print is made with edible ink. So after I got this, my intention was just to look at the detail so that I can carve the shoe right. Boy, when I tell you use templates, I learned, because that is what led to my first failed attempt, for which I had to strip the cake back and redo. So this time what I did was I had to create some form of template, and I had no idea how to go about the templates, right? So this is what I did. I took this one, placed it on another cardstock, and cut a same element out of it, because the shoe is carved from this picture. The sizing was the same. And then what I did was I stuck it on the side, and then I labeled some details to help me use that to make a fondant transfer. And if that means anything to you, all I'm saying is that it requires a bit of technical knowledge. So for instance, when I cut it, this was the front that was cut out, and then it says the shoe is 8 inches long and 5 inches high. So when I was doing the fondant transfer, I needed that detail, and I needed to make markings. So I say all of that to say you need templates to help you, okay? Again, whilst I'm handing you the tips, it's not a beginner-friendly cake at all. So perhaps, who knows, in future, you know what? Part of, besides wanting to sell cakes and things online, the other thing is I want to be able to create organized in-person classes. In-person classes, I'll tell you why they might be valuable to you if you're considering it. In-person, there is a ton of online classes you can purchase. Have I thought of putting some classes online? Of course, I would love to. But unless there is a chance for you to interact with me in real time, there may be some clarity you may be missing, or some information or questions you want to ask. I am up for giving you the complete value pack. So if we had, say, an in-person class, whether it's for a beginner's baking session to an advanced decorative session, you have me in person delivering you exact value on what your needs are, and you get to ask me all the questions. That said, the intention for an in-person class has to also take planning. It involves logistics. Obviously, I can't organize it in my home environment. So I have to find a place. I have to get all set up and make sure that it is going to be able to deliver the value that I promise. So that takes time. So you know what? I have consistently said on here, if you have intentions for a class of some sort, just register your intention, so that it also gives me some guidance over who is interested in the numbers, because that is equally important. Because if you don't need it, why am I creating it? I would love to have Tapita, thank you. I'll be having a look when I'm done. I know sometimes when I do finish, I disappear, but please do stay in touch. I'll catch you via email. MP, great to have you back. How are you? Great to have you here. That said, yeah, the tip here is to make sure that you have templates and you are organized. Also, in terms of keeping the structure stable and steady, please use ganache, will you? Please, whatever you do, use ganache. Ganache will save you. Ganache will keep your cake steady. Ganache will help you keep the form, because remember we covered this in ganache, and since we covered this cake has been sitting outside for all these days, you know, since we got it done. It's not going back in the fridge. I have to make time and cut it. Okay, so there we have it. So use ganache instead of buttercream, because making a hyper realistic cake using ganache, using buttercream on a sunny day, that's you asking for trouble. Okay, you are asking for trouble, a trouble you will get. So please use ganache. And back to planning, don't rush. Okay, decorating a cake is not a joke. Even though cake makers, we are generally undervalued and made to feel like everybody's nana makes cakes. Cake making is a lot of work, takes a lot of effort and skill, okay? So take your time. Go easy on yourself. Be kind to yourself. When you make mistakes, embrace it. I should be listening to myself more, shouldn't I? Right. So let's get in the chat and see what I am missing. Tabitha doesn't have party buses where she lives. You don't have public transportation. Who? You must live in some fancy countryside place over there, Tabitha. No public transport. The idea of living in such a community where it's so quaint that you don't have public transport is exciting. But then it takes away, well, if you drove, it'd be different, wouldn't it? How do I feel about, I think I like options. Tabitha, I like the idea of having options. What is it with the uncooked flour? MP, you have a taxi cab. Okay, okay, Tabitha drives, so she's okay. Right. That must be God. If I didn't drive and I guess people who don't drive would not want to live in your village. It's okay. MP, we laugh here. We laugh here. It's not a big deal. Don't worry. MP, where are you joining us from? Great to have you. Yeah. Oh, okay. Your city is a county seat, so it's not a village. Look at you. The city without a city transport system. Lollipop. Tabitha. MP, right. Have I missed something about the flour, the uncooked flour? What have I missed on that? I think MP sort of missed something. Nobody is making fun, isn't it? I think MP thought you were making fun of me. I don't know. But you know what? We do laugh here and we have a laugh about so many things, MP. You know, we have a sense of humor, so don't worry. We are okay. MP, where are you joining us from? And also, this conversation about the uncooked flour. What did I miss? Is it flour, uncooked flour buttercream, or uncooked flour in cake? What is it? I'm just trying to... Is that the Ermine frosting? Or flour mixed with into your buttercream? What sort of buttercream is that? Did it say you can is it raw flour? What kind of recipe is that, Lollipop? I'm curious. I want to know. MP. So Lollipop says my frosting recipe called for mixed flour. Called for flour mixed with icing sugar. Right? How is that possible? I'm just curious. Okay, Tabitha said it's in her frosting. Oh, okay. Yeah, I was just asking. Jackie is kind of caught that one. Ermine, yeah. Is that the cooked flour? It's called the cooked flour or pudding or Ermine frosting. Because Ermine frosting will call for you to make a flour base. It has similarities to German frosting, except the German buttercream requires you to make a whole custard, and the custard is made from corn flour. Corn flour as in cornstarch. Whereas Ermine buttercream calls for flour. So is that what we're talking about? Oh, okay, Ermine. Okay. Yeah, Ermine is cooked flour. It's also called cooked flour, or I think pudding buttercream. And you literally make a pudding, sort of a roux from the flour, and then you whip it with the butter. It is really stable. It is nice. The only thing I don't like about it is it has a very smooth mouthfeel. It's not sweet. We've spoken about Ermine buttercream on here. I think I have made Ermine buttercream on this channel. It's on the live. You can check it out. The only thing I don't like about Ermine buttercream is that if you are not told, okay, you can freeze it, you can chill it. It's super adaptable. It will come to room temperature. That is the only thing you can do with it. If you freeze it, you are only allowed to bring it to room temperature. Unlike other buttercream, you can't warm it in the microwave. If you do that to bring some warmth and to hurry the defrosting process, it will gelatinize. Tabitha, I say mine was uncooked flour. Okay, MP, we'll see you sometime. Take care, my dear. And thanks for stopping by. So, Tabitha, talk us through the recipe. What was that? Is it American buttercream with some uncooked flour in there? I'm lost, but I'm curious. Okay, Tabitha says it's an old recipe, at least 50 years old. Oh, okay. Oh, okay. The recipe is up. I'll check when after the live. I'll go back to the live chat. Oh, okay. You start with raw plain flour. Wow. You learn something every day. You people, you bring me so much value every day. Look at you. Today I've learned something over here. I learn something every day. What I'll do is I'll go and check it out when I'm done. I'll go and have a look at the recipe details and see what I have missed over there. But yes, we challenged ourselves and then we got our shoe cake done. So here's a question to you in the chat. I know the obvious question is, will you be trying a shoe cake? And I know all of you said no. You will wake up and try it, but you will wish the task on me to come and get it done over here, and I'm so pleased. We have had 6 days of set and intense session of making this cake. What have you learned so far in the process? Not just about cakes, but the entire cake making process and the experience of engaging and being here. What have you learned so far? Leave your thoughts in the chat, because sometimes I also want to solicit this feedback to inform what we are doing and how I can adapt and bring some more value. Oh, the flour acts as a stabilizer. Wow. I'll go and look at the recipe, but yeah. Lollipop says, don't smash the cake and just start again. You know what? I don't know what I am going to look. I will always find a reason to recycle a cake. Look, if I keep recycling the same cake, I will never utilize. I have a freezer full of cakes. I do. I'll show you in the live as the days go by. I will show you. You'll see. I have a freezer full of cakes and I have to use them because otherwise, look, I could recycle this cake 10 different ways. This cake right here. If I'm not using it as a whole cake, because remember when you're recycling, you are not really obliged to stick with the form. So you can recycle it in different forms. So I can smash it back up and make maybe, let's say, a grilled steak cake from this. I could make whatever you think about. I could go on and make it. But here's the issue. If I keep recycling the same cake in different forms, I still have scrap cakes that need to be used. And they don't go anywhere. They sit there a whole year. And I need to utilize the cakes. So no. Lady Lately is back. Tapita. Lady Lately said, I have learned that I am not Gladys. I allow the professionals to make the sneakers. Lady Lately, you have so much faith in me, okay? Look, you guys inspire me to come here every day and do what I do. So, even though you might feel that you're too feeble and inexperienced to make a cake like this, believe me, you'd be surprised what you can do when you put your mind to it. So come on, go and try it. Lady Lately, welcome back. So, okay, we're still talking about the flour recipe, isn't it? Okay. I am interested in seeing this recipe, especially with Jackie saying in the chat it's a great recipe for the summer months. Right. So wow, I would like okay. I would like to see that recipe. But if a buttercream recipe is on the sweet side, chances are that will not be for me. I just can't do the sweet thing. Thank you, Lollipop. So on the feedback, Lady said, our lady says she's found she will leave the sneaker cakes to the professionals. Thank you, but I disagree. If you tried it, especially with your wealth of experience over the years, if you tried it, you might just surprise yourself. Now, would you fall and have some failures and challenges along the way? Yes, but it is through the challenges you learn. So if you failed at your first attempt, at least one thing you would have learned is what not to do. So I would say, even if you're a beginner, go challenge yourself. Okay. And Jackie said she found it easier achieving better results following the live. Well, the lives are just for that exact reason, and I'm so pleased you find value in them, and we were able to assist with the panda cake. Lady Lately says, don't challenge me, please. I've been making blueberry muffins with yogurt and coconut milk. Lady Definitely. Come on, come drop us a recipe. Let's try that over here. Come on. Be okay. So Gucci, thank you for being here. We're talking, there is still conversations going on with the recipe, and Jackie is a handy help over here. Jackie says, thanks Tabitha, I know a bit about baking process, but I still struggle with flat tops. Jackie, okay, here's a question. Why are we bakers, why do we like the flat tops? Is it because they are easy for stacking? Because if they are easy for stacking, then we can just level it, isn't it? But yes, anyway, it depends though. The subject of flat tops shouldn't be a struggle, and I say that as in it shouldn't be a struggle, because if you develop flat tops, you just cut them off, isn't it? But if you don't want flat tops, if you don't want flat tops, or you want to manage your flat tops, here's the tip. It starts with the recipe. You have to look at the recipe closely and look at the proportion of ratio, the proportion of ingredients and the ratios, and then you compare it to the amount of rising agent, because the leavening and rising is what causes first hand, that is a causative reason for the rise. And then the secondary thing is the oven as well. So the entire, I have sometimes when I've spoken to people in consultation, and they have a recipe and they really want to nail it down, they want this recipe to, and it's like sometimes like the recipe is not optimized for you to have a flat top, so you're working against yourself, right? But yes, we will all want to get flat tops. But over here, most of the sessions I have baked cakes, I have aimed at optimizing the recipe so that we derive flat tops. Have we been able to achieve it? Yes. But that is because that is my recipe, and I've adapted it slightly just so that I can get flat tops. But yeah. Thanks, Jackie. Jackie doesn't care if it's domed. If it's domed, we will level it, and that's more cake for snacking. Okay, what do you do with your domed cakes when you cut the dome off? Okay, let's talk about some tips for utilizing extra cakes. What do you do with them? Do you make trifle with them? Tap it up. Threw the cake bits away because don't, if you know me, don't tell me about cake pops. That stuff is hard work. I don't know people who spend right. I don't like cake pops. That's all I've got to say. I don't like them. They take too much time to make. They are not worth the money you charge for them. Jackie, so I've spent a long time talking about domed cakes, and you're talking flat tops in icing. Well, if you know me, you'll know that half of the time we're having two different conversations. Anyway, that is just by the way. Trying to get a smooth and flat top as in icing. That is overrated too. Having a smoothly covered cake is a good thing. That is what you should aim for. But a flat top, what is on the top of the cake? Unless you're going to tear it, it's really not that big a deal. Nobody's looking on top of the cake. Now, that's me going with my controversial opinions, isn't it? You know what? I think my unpopular opinions are set in the fact that there's more to cake than just the decorating. But I also know, I say this to say, I know that we all have individual ambitions and preferences for things we want to achieve. So that is not invalidating what yours might be, by the way. But the thing that I love about cake making generally is I wish everybody knew that they have the ability to make a great and memorable cake, which doesn't involve decorating at all, like as in the professional level or advanced level decorating. With so many years of experience in baking, my go-to cake actually is a stripped back cake that is great in flavor, great in texture, has a good combination of cake to buttercream, a specific type of buttercream with a nice ratio of cake to buttercream that is minimally decorated with no fuss, and it's amazing. So I think because I see it from that very simplistic, it might, I say that again from a place of privilege, because what I may say is simple may not be simple. But you know what? At the end of the day, we are all here to learn and achieve something. So if you struggle with, so far, Jackie, talk me through the process. If you had a small cake to decorate with buttercream, talk me through your process. And let's see if we can hand you some practical tips for you. Because I'm sure you would have found tips online about how to do it. But if we know your process and how you like to approach your decorating process, we might be able to optimize for better results for you. So what's your process like when you're putting a cake together? Okay, so Jackie's way of approaching the cake is to glob on the icing, then use an offset spatula to smooth it out. First of all, an offset spatula smooths to a very nice extent, but it won't help you get the great results. It flows on the side, okay, and it flows over the side, but the top is never smooth. Do you use a scraper? As in, do you use a scraping tool? Or whether it's the wilting type, it's a plastic one? Yes, okay. So I imagine, oh, I was thinking I had some spare cake, and then I will. Okay, so first of all, let's unpack this for you, Jackie. Let me just help you unpack this. Now look at me. Okay. Okay. Let's unpack this for Jackie. Jackie, bear with me. Right, offset spatulas. Remember, I told you, let's hand you tips for you. So let me move the cake out of the way and let's talk about this. Offset spatula. Okay, I was looking for my smallest, let me see. This is annoying. I was looking for my very smallest sized offset spatula. I can't find it because I've kind of moved stuff. Oh, I have found it. Let me go find it, people. Stay with me, Jackie. Okay, I think what I also need is a tin. So we are going to try and demonstrate how to get a sharp edge using these tools right here. Stay with me. So Jackie, in terms of offset spatula, which ones here are you? Is it the small one, the flat topped one, or which one? I know you may not have the exact thing. I'm trying to get as close as possible to tools just so that I can get into your actual like process and stuff, and then recommend how to get sharp edges for that. So a painter scraper. Okay, yeah, the painter scraper is a good one because I actually big producer. Are you going now? Okay. Right. So a painter scraper, don't go to sleep on that. It's a good one. I actually, one of my scrapers is a painter scraper. Is it 6 fields or Acton?
6 fields.
Okay. See you in a bit.
Yeah.
Right. So which of these spatulas is closest to the one you have? I use one like the longer one. Okay, so the longest ones, are we talking about any of these? Any of these, right? So let me just move these out of the way. Okay, 1 second. Yeah, the big and mini producer, they're just gone. So, right, there you go. Okay, so we have, do you use a turntable? You use a turntable, I imagine, Jackie. So let's just say, first of all, even though these may look the same, as in they're all offset spatulas, they look very tall or long, there is a very significant difference in their angle. The angle of this offset spatula is significantly different from the angle of this one. So if you're aiming to use it, and then the angle of these two is different. This has a more shorter angle, whereas this is steep and more profound, and this is somewhere in the middle. Look at that. So let me put them over there. And I mean, if you are just not into, if you're not into the small stuff, this won't mean anything, but we're trying to problem solve here. So with that in mind, if you wanted to achieve better results using an offset spatula, considering you're a beginner, you need one with a very steady angle that will help you. Because using an offset spatula to get a flat top is about how you handle the spatula, the angle at which you handle it, and how it works. Because if you didn't know, or you're a beginner, and I don't categorize you as a beginner anyway, that's just for the purposes of talking, right? A beginner, anyone who is not used to handling cakes, is probably going like this. And then any sort of shaped movement or improper angling of your offset spatula is not going to help you get great results. So to get a better result using an offset spatula, I imagine you block the buttercream on here. Make sure your angle is angled, the offset spatula is angled to your arm where you have control, and you don't move the offset spatula, you don't lift it. If you are aiming, because you can lift it depending on how you are moving it, you can lift it if you want, right? But if you are aiming to get a flat top with it, you make sure the consistency of your buttercream is easy and can flow or move on its own. So a good tip here is to dip your offset spatula in warm water. dip it in warm water, wipe it clean, and then sit it right on top of the buttercream, and then move the turntable and let the offset spatula do the job. Obviously, if you are not too confident with that, you do it in parts. So you move, you lift, you go back and place it where you lifted from, and then you move till you get to the end. That is one way of using an offset spatula, but it does take time and practice, but it's all in the hand movement. It's a shame we are not doing that today. I would have done that and taken you through the entire process, but you know what, that is something to think about on how to get sharp edges, or the wrong way to use a spatula, or the wrong way to decorate cakes. That might be something to do in the future, right? So first of all, get a steady spatula and dip it in warm water. Make sure the consistency of buttercream supports ease of movement and flow for you, okay? And also, as you've started using a painter's scraper, that is fantastic. You dip that too in warm water, okay? And I think now I've got something to think about. I might come back and tackle the basics of this with you guys sometime. I know Lollipop is gone. Okay. Yeah. So Jackie, I think I'll bear that in mind. I might have to come back and cover that completely in a full tutorial so that we can see how we can get best results. And the good thing is that video, if it remains online, you can always come back to it to help yourself get better results. But yes, if you're using a spatula, the hand movement is important to support great results for you. The other thing you can do to get sharp edges also is you can build up much of the buttercream on the side and then leave a lip so you can cut it to get. There are different ways to do it. I think sometimes explaining it doesn't do it justice as much as demonstrating it. So I'll bear that in mind and probably come back in future videos to kind of cover it for you to see. Okay, so yeah, but don't be disheartened. It takes practice and it takes work. Okay, and you're in it anyway. You bake and you are getting on with it. So the more practice, the more involved and consistent you get with it, you will find your own way that works for you. So good luck with all of that. But I will be back in a future video to kind of like demonstrate the how to decorate a cake for a complete beginner. I have done that in previous videos on the live sessions. I think using buttercream for beginners, but I wasn't tackling the specific details as we are now. And like I said, I do recognize that sometimes demonstrating is way better and more informed than actually just telling you how to do it. So I'll bear that in mind for a future video soon. But that aside, people, it is 3:30. We were here from 2 o'clock. The tips are available for you to check. Our shoe cake is here. I don't know what I want to do with it. I have enough cake. Should I recycle? I don't know what I'm doing. But what I do know is that we will be back tomorrow. Did I say same time? No. The reason being, children are on a school break. My timing is a bit sketchy. Check in the community post. We will definitely be back tomorrow. Maybe I'll have a time adjustment, but I will keep you updated in the community post about the time. So for all of you, if you're just stopping by, great to have you. Thank you for being here. And for all of you who are ever so supportive of me being here with your time, being engaged, all of you, thank you so much. More so to Tabitha, Lollipop, Jackie, and the rest of you in the chat. I'm so grateful. Whilst we're at it, Jackie, as I was sitting there, a song came to mind. You may not have heard it, but I'm passing it off to you. Check it out. Is it Dan Gorka, as in Daniel, Dan Gorka? Be Strong. Go listen to it and let's see. It just occurred to me, and I thought, oh, if I'll share it with you. So have a good one. It's Dan Gorka. Be strong. Have a good day. Lollipop, Tapita, all of you. I'll see you in my next video.